Hi, my name is Sabine Winterkamp. I'm the EMEA Marketing Manager here at Voxeo, and then I would like to welcome you to our jam session on VoiceObjects on Demand. Take your multi-channel services to the cloud with VoiceObjects on Demand. If you have any questions during the session, please feel free to put them into the chat or questions channel. We will answer them at the end of the session. And now I would like to welcome Tobias Goebel. He's Senior Systems Engineer at Voxeo Corporation. Hi, Tobias.
Hi, Sabina. Thanks for the intro, and welcome everybody from my side. So I'm going to talk today about our new production offering of VoiceObjects on Demand and how you can exploit all the nice features of VoiceObjects without needing to make the investment into premise equipment. So basically, here's the agenda. I'm going to do a quick intro, a quick recap on what VoiceObjects is and how the architecture looks like. I will then talk about how we have put VoiceObjects into our hosted offering and how the architecture looks like in the Voxeo cloud. And I will actually then walk you through the steps required to connect your local VoiceObjects desktop client to our hosted server. And also how you can build and deploy voice and SMS services. So I will focus on these two channels for today. Readily available with our on-demand hosted offering. And I will also briefly talk about what is there in terms of reporting and analytics. And then we're going to wrap it up and open it up for a question and answer session. So as Sabine said, please put your questions into the questions panel in the GoToWebinar window. Okay, so to start off with the introduction here, you should be familiar, I guess, to some extent with what VoiceObjects is and what it does. There's quite an array of really significant features and functionalities in there that make it really a great tool to use for voice application development, management, as well as reporting. But we also support multiple channel services, so you can extend your self-service capabilities to SMS or mobile web or instant messaging or social, Twitter, and so on. And you might also be familiar with the strong reporting, analytics capabilities, the personalization features, and all the great stuff that sits within VO. So if you look at that, there's some investment you need to make if you want to use that software because, you need a database, you need the hardware, and potentially a BI environment for reporting, and so on and so forth. So you might be scared by that initial investment you have to make. So that's why we came up with the idea of hosting VoiceObjects in our cloud, in our network, just as we do it for the Prophecy IVR. So VoiceObjects on Demand is our answer to that concern. And just to recap on the high-level architecture of a VoiceObjects environment so that we're all in the same page here with regards to different components involved. There's three major components. There's our service creation and admin environment, VoiceObjects Desktop. There's our service execution environment, VoiceObjects Server. And there's our service analysis environment, VoiceObjects Analyzer. VoiceObjects Server essentially acts as the application server, the app engine that renders voice XML code and sends that to the media platform for it to process that and then in turn talk to the end caller. So if a caller calls in with their device, that call reaches our media platform, for example, Voxeo Prophecy, and then Prophecy talks to VoiceObjects Server to get the voice XML. At the same time, VoiceObjects captures information on the calls, like what callers are doing, system performance, speech recognition performance, and so on, in this database called InfoStore. And that is then a data source for our reporting offering, VoiceObjects Analyzer, that sits on top of that and comes with over 60 pre-built reports and also interactive analytics capabilities. Also, with the desktop, you use that for building and maintaining your applications. Again, you connect that to VoiceObjects Server to be able to deploy applications to it and also administer the server environment. And then down here we have, backend systems that you need to incorporate into your applications to connect to databases, CRM systems, all that. And we have this connector framework within VoiceObjects to allow you to do that. Also, one thing you should be aware by now is our multi-channel capabilities. So the idea of unified self-service, meaning you design an application once and then deploy it anywhere and on any channel that you need. And we differentiate 4 major channel groups. Voice would be the traditional IVR. Video would be IVR enhanced with video capabilities to stream video of a mobile phone and interact with speech and DTMF. Then we support texting. Texting can mean USSD, which is a texting protocol in GSM networks, SMS, instant messaging, and also social networks. And then on the web side, we support mobile web applications that run on a smartphone that has a browser. We can definitely also power, full-blown desktop websites, at least those that are more like dialogue-oriented. We can then, power kiosk terminals for that channels or even smartphone apps. So that's basically VoiceObjects. And now the question is, how have we mapped this architecture to our on-demand offering? So let's talk about that real quick. The picture looks like this. You have your callers calling in, and that could be over voice, that could be over texting, that could be over web. And basically they reach us first at a browser/proxy level. So if they make a voice call, a phone call, then that obviously reaches our normal, proxy IVR platform. That in turn then talks to our hosted VoiceObjects server. So we basically provide dedicated VoiceObjects server instances for every customer that uses that service. And we take care of managing that server environment. We obviously support all those features that come with it, such as the connectors, also the application management being hosted in our databases, and also InfoStore. So we also enable the full power of InfoStore in terms of logging call data and call information. If an SMS call comes in, that SMS reaches out through the carrier, through SMS aggregators, and reaches our SMS browser or SMS gateway, which then in turn talks to VoiceObjects server to get the application logic from. And in case of web, things look a little different. I mean, we do have a proxy server in our network that you can directly access. However, in a real live production scenario, you would probably have another proxy on your end to fit in your normal website offering, which will then do a plain redirect to our proxy. So that way you can then also provision URLs and domains as you wish and need them. So how do you come into play? What sits in your environment? So I'm pulling up the customer site here. Basically, all you do is provide the client terminal access. So starting with VoiceObjects Desktop, you will use our VoiceObjects Desktop for Eclipse. That's an Eclipse plugin you can just download for free. And you will configure that to connect to our hosted VoiceObjects server. Okay, so that goes through the internet, through the dedicated server instance that is configured just for you. In terms of backend systems, if you have the need to connect to on-premise backend systems, then that can happen over VPN. We do support all of our connector types. So, anything you're used to from VoiceObjects, Java, database, HTTP, web services, you can access through VPN if you desire. In terms of reporting, the way we do that, and I'm going to talk a bit in more detail about that, what options you have. We do not give you direct access to our hosted InfoStore database. Instead, what we do is we provide daily data exports that you can access through our Evolution customer portal. So that you can basically load that export into a local data warehouse and then have your BI environment such as Cognos or Business Objects or MicroStrategy where you access the reports and that BI environment then points to your local InfoStore database. Again, the package for the report, that's part of our offering, so that comes basically included in the VoiceObjects On Demand offering. So you can just import that package of reports into your local BI environment. So that's pretty much it, high level. So it's your two clients accessing server. It's your local info store. It might be a web proxy if you intend to provide web-based applications, and then the backend system access. Also, what still stays the same is that you use our customer portal called Evolution to manage your applications and manage your telephony. So basically, through the well-known approach of getting a free account in Evolution, you can set up your own phone number, both for voice and SMS. And through Evolution, you also get access to our ticketing and support, and also have access to our documentation we have online. So that's pretty much the same approach as it used to be for plain, Voxeo-hosted IVR services. Let's go through all the VoiceObjects features and see how they map to VOD and if there's anything that is currently not supported. The majority of the features that you know from VoiceObjects are supported if you use VoiceObjects On Demand, VOD. But there are some that are currently not supported. I just want to mention them to you so that you're aware of them. In terms of multi-channel, voice and SMS is fully supported and fully self-service. So you can go in without even touching our support organization and provision a phone and SMS-enabled phone number to test your services and develop them. When it comes to web, that does need activation through our support, so you need to touch base with us and ask for proxy access. And the same is true for if you want to build Twitter applications, for example, Twitter bots that can respond to people tweeting, and also instant messaging if you want to build a chat application, a chat bot that responds over Yahoo or Skype or MSN or AOL or Google Talk or Jabber. Again, that needs to be activated through our support. So if you want that and want to try that out, just let us know. In terms of USSD, which is, again, this texting protocol predominantly in the European GSM networks or any GSM network, essentially, that is also supported. Basically, we take another proxy approach here. For that, you need an external USSD gateway that usually sits with the telcos, and you can point them to our hosted VoiceObjects server. So that channel by itself is also supported. Same is true for video. Video is currently not within Prophecy, but it is on our roadmap to come in 2011. So if you have a premise-based IVR that does video, you can point that to our hosted VOD. Which essentially also means that any external media platform that is supported by VoiceObjects, we don't only support our own IVR, we support pretty much any VoiceXML-enabled platform out there. You can point that to our hosted VOD. So you can make use of a local existing IVR that you have, but you then can point it to VoiceObjects On Demand. Let's talk about reporting. So as I mentioned earlier, we capture all of what InfoStore provides. So the full InfoStore capability is there. Basically, when VoiceObjects server runs calls, it logs data into the InfoStore database that is hosted by us. You have access to some basic reporting. Basically, what we did is we added some of the most frequently used reports as kind of a web-based front end into our Evolution customer portal. So inside Evolution, you have access to the so-called application analytics, and that gives you access to your VOD services. When it comes to the full VoiceObjects Analyzer offering with all the 60 reports and also the interactive analytics where you can filter data, slice and dice, and so on, that is supported for historical reporting. As I mentioned earlier, we do offer daily data dumps from Evolution, so you can download those daily from our website or through FTP, and then import them into a local data warehouse sitting on your end, and then you have the full capabilities of VoiceObjects Analyzer. Real-time reporting, on the other hand, is not supported, as we do not give you direct access to our hosted info store. So if you want if you want to run a VO Analyzer report with a BI solution on your premise, you cannot cannot connect that to VOD. So basically, you don't get the the latest call. Basically, you have this lag of up to a day because of the daily exports. But for historical reporting, I mean, that's usually what you need to identify problems in your apps and trends and all that. Also, a couple of releases ago, we introduced the so-called control center reports. Those are basic reports that sit within Eclipse. Those are also not available due to that restriction of not being able to allow your connection directly to our hosted info store. As far as multi-tenancy goes, we do allow multiple users connected to the same environment. That needs setup, though, through support. So basically right now, every Evolution account that you have with us is mapped to one VoiceObjects server environment, VoiceObjects on-demand environment. If you have multiple users, by default, they would be connected to their own instances and environment, but you can ask us to connect them. Okay? What we do not give you is full access in terms of a server administrator user role in VO. We actually treat you as a tenant in our system, so we provide you with a site administrator user role, which means that you cannot set up other sites in the hosted VOD. But for production traffic and for the fact that we manage your environment, that should not be a restriction that should be of concern. When it comes to backend connectivity, I mentioned it earlier, all of that is supported, both Java, CGI HTTP, as well as web services, and direct database through JDBC is fully supported. When it comes to the documentation features, you can create PDF exports of your project documentation. That is supported still, and also the storyboard exports to create the prompt list for your application. Also, that will be working just fine. When it comes to deployment features, you do have access to the control center, so you can see the server instances of your environment and the services. You can deploy multiple services. You can also define session partitioning, which is kind of the service level agreements, the SLAs per service for the ports that you have bought. You do get access to log files and trace files, just as you know them from standard VO. When it comes to development, you can certainly use the Storyboard Manager to develop and design your application. There is a restriction right now with the current version regarding the two tools, Debug Viewer and Phone Simulator. Those are basically phoneless testing tools. Those are currently not supported. They will be coming with a future release. The way to mitigate that would be to basically use our embedded web-based phone to place calls into the application, instead of using kind of the debug tool here. And I'll talk about that later, how you can use our Phono offering to make calls to your application if you don't have a phone available. The trace viewer works just fine, so you can use that to inspect calls that have happened into the system. All right, so that was a quick walkthrough of the features that are available and those few that aren't. So now what I want to do is I want to walk you through the steps required for you to actually connect your local VoiceObjects desktop to our hosted offering, and then I'm going to show you how to deploy your first application there. So let's start off. Obviously, the first step is go get your free Evolution account if you don't have one yet. So go to evolution.voxeo.com. That's our customer portal and developer portal. If you're not a customer yet, you get free access. So you can just click on, join today and get your free access today. You don't have to write this information, the URLs. You will get access to the slide deck at the end once we upload them to the usual website, which is developers.voiceobjects.com. Now, the second step to set it up, obviously you need to install Desktop for Eclipse, the FE, version 10. You get access to that through our developer portal. So there's the link where you can get a free download, and you need to make sure you download DFE 10. And there's versions both for Windows and for Mac for both operating systems. So download it from there, install it. It's a pretty straightforward install. And once you have it up and running, the next thing you need to do is you need to configure it to connect to VoiceObjects on demand. Basically, there's 3 modes you can operate your desktop for Eclipse in. First one is called standalone mode. Second one is called network mode. And the third one is VoiceObjects on demand. Standalone mode means pretty much offline. So you work with an embedded database for storing the apps. You work with an embedded VoiceObjects server to actually test your apps and run them. And so you can be completely, fully self-sufficient in an offline mode. Network mode would be the mode if you have a premise installation of VoiceObjects, which you want several people to have access to. And then the third mode is the one you're interested in today, which is VoiceObjects on demand. So basically, you go to Eclipse, open the preferences for Eclipse, select VoiceObjects down here, and then in the repository connection mode, select Work with VoiceObjects on demand, and that requires your Evolution user ID and password. Okay, so you need to first have that Evolution account. You can also click this link if you don't have it, which brings you to that website. And then you can click Test Connection to see if that access works, which it should, and then you're done. What you arrive at is pretty much the standard Desktop for Eclipse view. On the left-hand side, you have your repository browser, which shows you all the projects. Now, initially, we have pre-configured one demo project for you, which is a little guess my number application. So that's right there for you to go and test it out. Then at the bottom, you have the control center. That already shows you your VoiceObjects on demand instance. It has a certain ID. And there you can also get access to the services and the log files and trace files and so on. So basically, before I show you how to build and deploy an app, there's one more remark here. So there's two modes in VoiceObjects on demand. One is staging, one is production, basically two environments. You can feel free to develop and work on a daily basis in the VoiceObjects on demand staging environment. However, the production environment is something that you would really only go into to look at the deployment status or redeploy a new version, but you wouldn't work and develop your application in that production environment. We recommend two modes to work in if you're in development stage. You can either work in standalone mode, that way you can be offline, you don't need to be connected to our hosted VOD, or you can work in VOD mode, but with a staging application. By default, if you go into Evolution and create your first app, you end up in staging automatically. So going to production needs contact with our support and sales organization, obviously. So then what you want to do to switch between the environments, you basically export your application from one, which can be standalone or staging, and then switch over and then import that application into VOD production. All right, now let's have a closer look at how to build and deploy your first app. So step one, obviously, build it. I'm not going to walk you through everything required to build an app. That will be for you to either use our tutorials to do that or attend our training sessions, which are, by the way, free of charge if you take them in Orlando or Cologne. So you would use, you would basically go through all these typical steps of designing the application, using Storyboard Manager, developing them in the Desktop for Eclipse. Then you can document them, you can test them, and then report them. So basically, all the usual steps you take in building your app that you know from VoiceObjects, that's still the same, right? It's just you use DFE to do that. Now the second step, let's say you have an application ready, and I have a little demo app here that I will also provide to you later for download if you want to try voice and SMS out, because the number guessing game right now is only for voice. It's a little, semi-fake order status hotlines. You call in, provide an order ID, system looks it up, and provides the status. So to deploy your application, you would right-click on the root module, and for those of you who are familiar with Desktop for Eclipse in standalone mode, you will know that option, Test Application. When you are in VOD mode, that option is not available. Instead, you have an option, Deploy Application. That means you're then deploying to the VOD hosting, and you can choose to either deploy it as a new service if it's the first time, or you can choose to redeploy an existing service, and that will show up here in the drop-down box. So basically the next step then, if you select new service, you need to provide a service name. And if you click Finish, what happens in the background is VoiceObjects now deploys that to the cloud, and at the same time it provisions a phone number and an application, not a phone number right away, but an application on Evolution. So the step to hook it up with our hosted prophecy is done automatically for you. In DFE, what you end up with after clicking Finish is the test monitor. The test monitor is the place where you can now start your test. You can turn on and off tracing, and you can call in, and you can use Phono to do that. So there's a link here. If you want to use our web-based soft phone called Phono, then you just click that link, and you get a pop-up, and then you can call that application, and it works just out of any browser. Okay? So you click Call, and if you want to talk to it, you need to hold down the talk button. That's pretty much how it works. So now you have an application. You can test it. You can call into it. But what about having a landline phone number? So step 3 would be provisioning a phone number. So if you go to Evolution now, you find your deployed application in the Application Manager. So this is your home page of Evolution, the account overview, and you can click Application Manager, and it shows up here as an application, and the application type is VoiceObjects On Demand. Okay. Now, if you click that application in Evolution, it jumps to the application settings. You will see that, okay, here's our application name that we gave the service in VoiceObjects, and it's deployed as both a voice and a text application. And as you can see down here, both versions point to that same VOD service, order status. So you can also change the routing here to another VOD service that you have deployed. Now, if you switch over to contact methods, that's the place where you can provide a new phone number and add a new phone number. And as you know, we do give that to you for free, so you can just go to phone number, select your region, select your area here, and click Add. And that will attach a phone number to that application, and that phone number is voice and SMS enabled. So pretty much the next step is test it over a proper phone. Now, I have deployed this little service in our cloud, so I want to challenge you. I want you to pick up your phone, your cell phone, and send an SMS with pretty much any message to this number now. Okay? I just want to see if those calls show up in my control center. So if you do that now, you should get this message back first, and then you can provide any order ID, and it sends back a status. Alternatively, if you start your SMS dialog right away with that order ID, which needs to be 8 digits, then it skips that initial step and presents to you the order status right away. Okay? So at this point, I just want to switch over real quick and look at my control center to see if anybody out there actually makes calls to my service. Do a refresh, and yeah, I see 3 people are following my advice here to give it a try. So 3 active sessions right now happening. I'm hoping it works fine for you and you get the SMS back. That service only should work out of the US, by the way. So I apologize for the non-US customers and listeners at this point. This will currently only work when you're in the US. And the number I gave you was a US number. So in the control center, I'm connected to VO On Demand right now. I get my control center. You see here, VoiceObjects On Demand. I can go to session tracing to see who called me. So I see different phone numbers here. I'm going to hide them real quick. This one is mine. So, you can open the trace. You can see what people did there. So the usual VoiceObjects features here. You can access to the log files and so on. And here's my services as they were deployed. Now we're down to 2 active sessions, so 1 person has got there and received their order status, and 2 are still in the dialogue, as it seems. Okay, let's go back to the presentation. Thanks for trying it out, by the way, to those who did. So as I said earlier and showed you actually live, you do get full access to the control center. Your instance is pre-configured for you. You see the services deployed. You can see the status of InfoStore logging and tracing and custom logging, and also access to log files and trace files and so on. Now, the last thing I want to talk about here is reporting and analytics. So let's have a look at what kind of access to reporting you have with VoiceObjects on Demand. First of all, you need to actively turn it on. So in Evolution, there is a new category, and you see that because it says new, called Application Analytics. You need to click on that, and it brings you to that section. And there's a piece on the right-hand side where you see Enable Analytics Archiving. So basically, if you want to enable the automatic capturing of data for full-blown VoiceObjects Analyzer access, you need to enable that archiving for your entire Evolution account. It's not per service, it's for the entire account. Once that's enabled, what you can then do is you can access either the web-based reports through Evolution or access the daily exports. So, for example, if you go to Application Analytics, you can see that you can provide a start date and end date. You can pick the service for which you want to run a report, and then there is a handful of reports here, or two handfuls, I should say. Predefined reports, for example, average call duration, business task completion rates, excuse me, calls by weekday and hour, language trend if you have multilingual services, recognition quality to check the ASR performance, and so on and so on. There's quite a few that make a lot of sense to get a first impression of what your application performance is all about. So if you pick one and say run report, it'll then show that report embedded in the website. This is a business task and completion rate report that I'm showing you here for my order status service. So only almost like 55% or so actually completed the task of looking at their order, 45% failed in doing that. That's what this report shows me. And then there's also a link to download a PDF version so that you have that as an external file. Now, for the full analyzer setup, again, to recap on that, so we do write to our hosted InfoStore, so we capture all that data that you get out of InfoStore. But you, on your premise, need to have another database environment into which you basically import the daily data exports that you get from Evolution. So you import them into your local InfoStore, which can be a SQL server or an Oracle or a Postgres or any of those supported. And then you have your VoiceObjects Analyzer BI environment and point that to your local data warehouse. And then, you can essentially also then incorporate other data sources into consolidated reports here. Where do you find those InfoStore exports? So as I said, we run them nightly. And if you go to Files, Logs, and Reports in your Evolution account, under root, there is a folder InfoStore Export, which will only show up after the first file has been written. And then it shows all the files basically with a timestamp for the snapshot. And those are basically the last day of data that you get there. And they come as tab-delimited flat text files. So basically what you need is an import script to import those into your local database. If you don't know how to do that, please get in touch with our support. We can definitely help you with that. All right, that should be it. So basically, let's recap what I've shown you. I've shown you how to connect your local desktop client to VoiceObjects on Demand. I've shown you that you can pretty much go ahead and build an application as you're used to in VoiceObjects, and then deploy that as a hosted service. You can deploy voice and SMS applications right out of the box without any need to get in touch with us. You can do that fully self-serviced. You can, looking further down the road, you can also do web applications, mobile web, instant messaging, Twitter, and all the other channels we support. So that is fully supported in VOD. And also, I've shown you the reporting and analytics capabilities, the fact that you can access the web-based reports that are readily available, as well as the daily InfoStore exports if you want the full, load of VO Analyzer with the interactive analytics and the full set of 60 reports that we ship with VoiceObjects. Okay, now it's time for question and answers. So if you have any questions, please type them into the questions panel right now. Let me see if any questions have been written in there already. Doesn't look like that. So if you have any questions at this point, feel free to just write them into the questions tab in the GoToWebinar control panel. I see one question here going hello, and I say hello back. Keep it coming. Okay, here's one question asking about whether VOD is available only in version 10. Yes, that is correct. So that's actually an important point here. If you want to access VoiceObjects on demand, you need to download VoiceObjects version 10, Desktop for Eclipse 10. So the desktop version needs to correspond with the VOD version, which is at version 10 right now. If you have an existing Desktop for Eclipse with another version like 9, then what you can do is you can install the 10 version in parallel, because Eclipse can pretty much live. You can pretty much install any number of Eclipse versions on your Windows or Mac box. So if you want to keep the old version because that's what you use currently, then that's fine. Just install 10 in addition to it. Are these analytics available for out-of-the-box on-site installs? If you have an on-site install, so you're talking about not on-demand, but basically on-premise, then the analytics that I showed you, the web-based ones, are not available because those are tightly integrated with our hosting. However, for on-site, you do get the control center reports. So there are some reports embedded in Desktop for Eclipse, and those are readily available in a on-premise installation. If you haven't found that option yet, it depends also on the version you're running. I believe we introduced that with version 9. Then if you go to the deployment guide, there's a section on control center reports to see what is available in Eclipse right away for your on-premise. Good question here from Matt. Are VOD production applications able to be hot cut? Next call gets new code. Yes, absolutely. We do still support the redeployment, hot redeployment feature. So that's a basic feature of VoiceObjects that you can apply a change to your app, roll it out with a click of a button in the control center, and that will not affect the current callers, but any new caller calling in will get that new application definition. So the whole point about VOD is that you will get full access now with VOD in production to the hosted VO. You will get access to the application definition. You can make changes. You can decide when you want to redeploy it. If you don't want that, we can also engage with you in a support model where basically you let us do that as kind of a professional services engagement. Alex is asking a follow-up question. Is there a plan to include the hosted application analytics in the future with an on-premise installation? I'm not aware of that right now because it's really built-in evolution and it's tightly integrated with the hosted info store. If you're interested in this feature of kind of web reports on an on-premise installation, we can certainly talk about that and see whether we can put that on a roadmap. I can definitely follow up with you on that one, Alex. Okay, there's a question here, trying to make a connection between our CRM and an SMS platform to use SMS to ask the system, like you asked us to do, and also to use bulk SMS. I want to know how VOD can help us. Okay, so VOD can help you with that, definitely. Integration with CRM systems, that is the plain backend integration effort that you need to do here. So basically use our VoiceObjects connector framework to use Java or the web services layer to talk to your CRM. And then you use the SMS capabilities as I've shown you. So basically, we would provision a phone number for you, translated on the region that you intend to deploy the services on. And then you can have your customers call in or basically text in and ask questions to the CRM, following the dialog flow that you build into your application. Bulk SMS is another story. Bulk SMS is something that the carriers typically do not allow out of the box for normal DIDs. There is a volume restriction to that of, I believe, 10 messages per minute. If you want to do bulk, you can apply for a shortcode, and we can also do that for you. So a shortcode then does allow, pretty much doesn't have any restrictions with regards to the load. If you're asking about outbound SMS, so can you use VOD to start off an SMS call where people can then respond to have the two-way SMS, then the answer is absolutely yes. You can do that as a combination of our outbound API together with VOD. Okay, Paul Lucas is asking regarding the VO versioning, can you open VO version 10 apps in an earlier VO version, for example? That is not supported out of the box. I mean, that would be, trying to open a Word, 2008 in a Word 95. But what you can do is the other way around. So if you have an app in 9.1 or earlier, you can definitely import that into VO10, no problem. In special cases, we can help you through our support to kind of downgrade your application. If you really have a big app that you want to, in 10, you want to use in 9 for whatever reason, I mean, my question would be, why would you want to do that? Then there is ways to do that, but it requires some interaction with our support. Thomas' question was in the same region, how VOD backward compatibility with applications in earlier versions. So as I said, if you have an earlier version that you want to deploy in the cloud, no problem. Just export it from your existing VO and import it, and then connect to VOD and import that into import the app into VOD. Vladimir is asking, how is data transferred from CRM over by connector to Evolution platform secured? There's different things we can do. I mean, we, being a hosted provider, we have that question basically with every installation, and you can use HTTPS for one thing. We can also set up dedicated VPN connectivity to your premise environment. Any other questions? Doesn't look like it. Okay, so if you have any other questions, I mean, do get in touch with us. You can, if you have a pre-Evolution account, you can just start either a live chat with our support, or you can send emails to support. You can also get in touch with me directly. My email address is tgoebel@voxeo.com, TGOEBEL @voxeo.com. So just reach out to us, and we'll be happy to answer all your questions, and also to help you get your application into our cloud. So thank you for attending today's session. Also, in February this year, we will launch a new series of more kind of best practices related jam sessions, not so much like developer. So the next one on that is, or the first one is going to be best practices in deploying communication applications, cloud versus on-premise versus a hybrid model. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to do that on the 15th of February, so in 2 weeks, at 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. All right. Thank you very much for attending.
The presentation will be available on our developer portal. We did a recording of this session, the same for the slides. And if you have any additional questions, so please, I sent you the email address from Tobias in the chat window. Contact him directly, contact us at sales@voxeo.com, or contact me directly as wintercamp@voxeo.com, and we are happy to help you. Thanks for attending the session, and have a great rest of the day. Bye.
Bye-bye.